afternoon to everybody, depending on where you are in the country. We really appreciate you taking the time to join us today. We're here to show you some software, and we're pretty proud of it, of course. And of course, we're all here to help some clients and do some stuff. But it really made us reflect as we're hitting our 30th year about, why we do what we do here. It's more than just about the product. It's more than just about making sales. It's the relationships that we hold with our customers and our partners. And then, the thought that and the desire to, help people with technology solutions that really do have ROI for them, that either simplify their life or increase the customer experience. That's what we think we've done here. The goal of this is to optimize operations. We've got some very interesting components to the software that we want to talk about. It's often viewed as simply a mobile product, but it's much deeper than that. One of the things about it is that it's pretty highly available to anywhere with an internet connection. We've got some tools that we're including with the installer now that allow you to, in a matter of a couple minutes, set it up so that without any additional hardware or anything like that, right on any machine, open that up so you can run Modern Suite against your RMH store or Central from anywhere that you've got an internet connection on any device. It's very simple. It's fast. It may save you the trip into the store if you need to do some work on POs, things like that. Lord knows at $5 a gallon, we'd all probably drive a little less if we could. Hopefully this allows people to do some work from wherever they are that is more efficient or more comfortable or just better for them as people as they go through their day-to-day lives. And then the other thing that we really want to reinforce is that we're trying to put together some things that save time. I mean, time is money, so we get a pretty common sort of feedback about our typical mobile inventory counting or inventory counting routines that say they can do a count with half the time and half the people, which is a pretty good set of efficiency there. Not only that, but it can come out more accurate, especially with some of the smart auditing tools that show up today. We'd also like to believe if people take advantage of all the desktop functionality in this build, there really is more functionality for people that are doing typical desktop operations like creating POs, managing data, dealing with labels. A lot of those things really aren't done out in the warehouse or out where the products are. They're really done from somebody's desk. So one of our focuses is trying to come up with a way where we can make it so efficient that we would save potentially, half the people in the organization an hour a day. We sort of thought if we could hit that mark, if the solution could somehow make people's jobs easier and processes faster, that they could, half the people could save an hour a day, then you've got a pretty good return on investment proposition. I mean, that means the product essentially pays for itself in under 3 months, depending on the size of your organization. But those are some of the things that we're thinking about. We're trying to make it simpler. A lot of stuff is more complicated than we want to be. We're trying to make the implementation process faster. We're trying to set up better training tools. Our documentation's been updated. We'll be following this up with a full product feature video here in the next week or so. And, we're just trying to do fun stuff with computers that make people happy. That's kind of what we've been working on. The access to everywhere, like VPN access. And a lot of people know what VPN is. Some people don't. A lot of times it seems like it's a little daunting early on setting up VPN tunnels. It was pretty technically challenging. But like I said, we're including a small tool with the solution now. It's basically installer software based. It's a few clicks away from being able to access it anywhere. Because it's delivered via web services over a browser, that means that you can get to it very easily from any device. It can be your Android, iOS, it could be a desktop, tablet, and it runs quickly. It runs like you're on a local area network. I test it all the time in low connectivity places where, get down to 4G or get down into even slower than that. And it runs quite effectively because it's like a web page. We've been listening to our partners a lot about the complexity of the solution and trying to show it off. And one of the things that has been tough about it is that it's hard to load like a 5-store demo and a central demo on one image or one machine. In about a week or two, we'll have a release that allows you to run multiple instances on a single machine, which should make it easier to test and to pilot and to demo. It's not typically how it works in production, except for oftentimes, the warehouse and the main store, of course, and Central are on the same machine. So that'll make that easier. We really are trying to defunk the fact that it's, just a mobile product. It is certainly a mobile product, but it does so much more than that, and it services, both types of functions where you need to be up close to the product, where you're scanning and tagging and things like that. But we've got a lot of neat functionality for pretty much everybody on all the job tasks. So that's what we're going to try and talk about today. So some of the cool stuff we've done is a lot of fit and functionality, or fit and feature stuff, sort of tightening it up. We did add localization. So now you can switch from English to Spanish. It is also customizable. So if you had a language that you knew how to translate or wanted it translatable, it's built to accommodate any language that you can put in there. We've got a bunch of import-export capabilities now in the last couple of builds. And these, I think, are going to come in really handy, especially for the folks that are in the implementation phase. We'll get to that. We've got some expanded analytics in terms of data about what's going on and where the system thinks you are compared to, how you're putting in the data, sales information, purchasing information. The product has its own synchronization engines. It's got one called RapidSync, which is a real-time process. So when you work with POs or transfers or global item management, any of those things, it actually uses that transport, which is, again, web services. It's all encrypted. You can do it from anywhere, and it happens instantaneously. It's quite good at making sure everything's in sync, so we don't have any problems with POs not showing up. And then the Zamboni sync, which is sort of a data cleanup engine that runs every hour, and in the background, and make sure that the tables are synchronized. If there's any missing records or fields, that we clean up as much of that as we can. We've increased the predictive order guidance. I'll show some of that off. We're proud of our inventory smart audit. Pretty excited about that. It allows you to let your customer define rules about when people are either creating a list or creating an account. As they scan items in, it flags them if they hit some criteria. I have some built-in criteria here, but it is configurable so that if your customer has a particular thing that they see as an exception or that they want flagged as people are going through inventory, you can have the system do those functions for you and then notify that person in real time while they're sitting in front of the item. So as an example, if anybody scanned in an item that the system showed had less than 0 on hand, you might think, okay, well, I've got a problem because I clearly got one on the shelf. System says I have -2, so I have some work to do to figure out what's going on there, and that's completely configurable. Full PO receiving. We've got some expanded label printing, which is really good. Conquered the butterfly tags. We've got QR codes in there. We'll show off some of those. Of course, it does inter-store transfers. We've enhanced the global cashier management quite a bit, so that's a nice piece that a lot of folks have taken advantage of. And then, of course, we do have full-blown global central compatible item management. So you can control and edit items across the enterprise from anywhere on the product. Yeah, import, export, this has been a big one. So we've got the ability to do POs. You can import POs. You can also export them into a file or email them out to your vendor. And then depending, in some cases, some of these vendors are sophisticated and have what used to be called EDI, but they can send you a return file. It's like a correction of your PO that shows you what they're actually going to ship and what your actual costs are and things like that. And if you have a relationship or a vendor that does that, then we also have the ability to import the adjusted file into the PO so that when the receiving docket pulls up, when the products get to the back dock, they match the bill of lading. So on some of the orders, people have, hundreds or maybe thousands of items, and the distribution channels are pretty sophisticated, and they're pretty accurate. So they can send you a return file that shows, exactly what you're going to get, so your people can spend way less time checking stuff in. And then transfers, like POs. We've got item import. We've expanded the fields there. We can import customers. That's including AR balances. And then voucher imports of vouchers have been a big request that we got. So we've got that capability in there. And then we've got a bunch of new fields, including import on-hand quantities. Okay, so here's the list of most of the import fields. I think there's actually a couple more in there, but you can see we're covering quite a bit of the records that go into any item. So yeah, we've got some KPIs that are quick access. One of the things about the product is it fills in all the data in a way that all the native RMH reports work. So while there are indications and flags that let you know where it was done, it completes all the standard functionality for RMH, so you can see it in all those typical reports that you're used to seeing. And then you can track, by open lists and all these things pretty good. And we have a very succinct audit trail for when the users are in the software, what they're doing, how they did it, how far they got. So we have the ability to report against that. Talked a little bit about the synchronization engines. We just want to make sure people understand we've got some nice stuff in the background. It's all encrypted. It helps with moving the data around faster and then doing some cleanup. And then the backdate to 401 feature of Zamboni is nice. So that if you need to clean some data, if you can just go back a certain number of days or weeks or months to have it sort of recollect, because for those who are familiar with a 401 where you could backdate one, that's pretty much that functionality. This is sort of topographical map of the services. So you've got Central and RMH in the middle with the red flashes, which are using those web services. And then we've got a separate set of web services up top for the Rapid Sync engine. And then there's yet another set, a third set, for the Zamboni on the bottom there. So that's kind of topographically what it looks like. So we've got a lot of functionality. You can scan and look up prices and edit items and print labels. It's really easy to edit. We added lot code support, which includes quantities and weighted lots, as well as lots for standard items. We'll dig into that a little bit. You can now scope your POs and counts and transfers and labels based on supplier, category, department search term, and sales dates, a bunch of other things. So to isolate, to build a list or to build a PO or one of these dockets, you can scope down pretty quick. And it includes multi-tier scoping now. So if you want to choose a supplier and then a department and then one category, you can keep going into a loop scope set so that you can really thin down to get to what you want to get to. Everything is central compatible, for stores and the central databases. So everything you do is going to affect the entire enterprise. One of the things we've done, so some of the processes are large, like we find clients that have multi-thousand item counts, or they're printing out large batches of labels, is that we thread those into the background. So, while they don't often take a lot of time, closing a 1,000 item PO can take maybe a minute or something, and then printing the labels for it. So we push those out into a separate thread so that even though if it's got a minute to wait before that process is done, you can continue to work. It doesn't slow the user down. There's no waiting on that. And then we've also got full support for serial numbers. And in terms of counting them and receiving them, we've got a workflow that allows you to identify the item and then quickly scan through all the serial numbers. So it shortens up the data entry. We're pretty excited about our printing capabilities now. As an example, if you look in that image there, that's a butterfly tag. Some of you are familiar with those. They're fairly small. They're often used for jewelry. And one of the problems many of us had over the years is getting items that have longer item lookup codes to print a barcode on there. So one of the things that we've done is we put QR codes on them. Most of the scanners out there are now imagers, so that's actually pretty cool. And then you can see here, this item actually has a 16-character ILC, okay? And it's also one where we've got a price/sale price. So it used to be $1,200, and now it's $599. It's a pretty good sale. So we've got a lot of new labels, a lot of capabilities. It supports any IP-based DPL label, so printer. So it'll support pretty much every one that's designed to do labels in the world. And then we've expanded the fields that we can put on these as well. So let's take a look at that. So we can see for the labels, we've got quite an extended set of fields that can be used. And of course, if you guys are using it and you come across a field that we don't have that you'd like to see, let us know. And that's true of any feedback that you've got about the product. Oh, here's some more examples. So you can see we've got, not only UPC, UPC-A, and then we've got like a 128B style and a QR code style. We've got the price flash. So there's quite a bit of flexibility. These are all templates that are included with the software. So we've got about 20 or maybe 25 templates now that are already pre-done. And then, like I said, if you need more fields, we can get to that. So here's part of our screenshot from our random weight process where it does the labels and stuff. We have the ability to do these lotted items now. That we talk about it about random weight, and we talk about it about just plain lots. But for those of you that are doing grocery or have dealt with deli or meat counters, things like that, where they need to bring these things in, and they may buy 100 pounds of meat, and it gets broken up into packages that are not always even. It handles those, handles the expiry, tracks the individual weights up to the total lot value. And then if it's not a weighted item, if it's just a standard item, then it carries the, the assigned lot and the expiry, and you can go in and report on that. We've got some custom reports that come with it to tell you which products are in which lots and how all that works. We're going to get to this, the predictive order guidance. I think that's pretty exciting especially for folks that have items that they buy and sell on a common, repeating basis. And then, we really want to reinforce that you can do a lot of this work from anywhere. You can be at home, you can be in the office, of course, or, you could be on the beach. If you like to work on the beach, you can make it easy to facilitate that. And then certainly receiving POs and things like that. It's just so much faster and easier. Interstore transfers, like POs, we have full functionality for that. Source, destination, in transit. It all supports serialized items. It supports, label printing and everything. So pretty common. And in our inventory count, of course, our smart audit we keep talking about. Get to that and show you how that kind of works and gets configured. One of the things about the product is that it is not a device-based licensing structure. It's not tied to a physical computer or to a phone or to a Scandroid. It's a concurrent user model. So if you have a store and you have 3 user license, you can use it on, if you have 10 different machines, you can use it on any of those machines. And you don't have to load anything on the machines because it all runs centrally in the store. It just means that you can only have 3 people doing those tasks at the same time. So I think that's an important factor because a lot of times, you don't want to have to, have a device for every license. You really just need some licenses that you can share amongst devices. And then the other part about it is because it's web-based and it really just needs a browser, which means that you can downgrade the hardware on the PCs, like in the warehouse or anything like that, because you don't need a full-blown PC, especially today where costs are going up. You can get away with a tablet or you can get away with a Chromebook, or something or a less costly device to perform these functions. And that is another way that potentially this product pays for itself. We've got a lot of features in the count list now. Rapid scan, so you can do that. Easy manual entry. You can add items on the fly. So if you scan an item in the PO or scan it in a list or in an account and it doesn't exist, you can just add it right there. And of course, that's central compatible. And then the counting is done on a delta basis. So we snapshot when it started, so which effectively means you can count while the store is open. And that can be pretty handy. This is an example of what happens when an item hits a trigger point inside the smart count, and we'll get to this a little more. But because it's 500, I think this was triggered by a rule that says if you're more than 50% over of what the system thinks you have on stock, then flag it. And so it lights up the line in yellow or orange while that person theoretically is right in front of the item still. And then they can go back and do a reality check. And then, of course, it does all sorts of other things to stop misentry. Like anything over 10 digits, it stops. So if somebody scans in a UPC, it won't let that go in. It tells you that's an unrealistic number. Go back and check that. So trying to make sure these processes go faster and are cleaner and more efficient in less time. Again, hardware-wise, it's agnostic. Any of the devices you can get a browser on, is good. It runs over any network transport on any operating system. And we feel like the user interface, while it's a little different, pretty easy to use once you learn it. And then you can control, again, we've got cashier management, simple cashier management, which is enhanced over some of the capabilities of the stock product. There are lots of options, of course. There are Motorola and Honeywell, and there's a lot of device manufacturers. But the distribution channels have been running dry, and some of those devices have a decent cost to them. If you haven't seen some of the devices we bring in, called these Scandroids, they're probably worth a look. They're pretty low cost, got inventory on them. They run real fast, they're super rugged, and people are loving them. We've got the handheld one on the left there, which has nice hard keys for quantity entry, and then the right-handed one is, of course, a pistol grip, which if you're doing a lot of counting or pointing up and down different shelf racks and things like that, that could be handy, in terms of ergonomics over a day. Like I said, it's been localized, so it comes with Spanish and English now. Other languages can be added. So let me describe what we've got on the screen. On the left-hand side, we're running Modern Suite, which is pointed at my Store 1 here right now. And then on the right, we've got the Modern Suite interface for Central. So we're not going to spend too much time here, but because most of you guys know the functionality is mostly in the actual client side. Log in here, type my password. So one of the things, of course, the new pieces that was requested was that we do localization. So it's as easy as just clicking this box to switch into Spanish. And then the interface works in Spanish. We do have full cashier management like we talked about. That happens up in Central. So if I drill in, I can see Francis, see her register properties. I can see the roles and permissions that she's allowed, over short limit, things like that. So our guys have found that to be super helpful in managing the cashiers across the Central environment. I'm going to go ahead and pull up the Store Manager, Retail Management Store Hero on this side, and then we'll do some work over here. So like I said, we've got import-export capabilities. It's real simple. You just pop in here and you go to the import screen. You choose which type of records you want to import. We've got template XLSs for all these. So they're already done and they have a full-blown examples and sample data. So you know exactly like what a template could look like. And then I think in the next build, pretty soon, we're going to have a little link below each one of these boxes where you can just click it right there and download that XLS for the one that you need. But they do come in the installer, so they're placed in the file system when you do the install, and you can pick those templates to see, exactly how to format those files in a way that they're going to import right. And that's a pretty transparent. You just click it, choose the file, and it imports items. So there's not a lot to show there. On the other hand, the PO piece is something we're really excited about. And again, this goes back to trying to make sure that those folks that are really working in the back office or at a desk, we can help them through their process. So one of the things I can do here is I'm just going to start a new list. I'll call this top PO. And then I'll scan a couple items into it. And one of those. Oh, that's another thing we added. I don't know if y'all were able to hear that over my microphone, but one of the requests was we got to get us a scan success sound. So the scanner beeps, and when it's a successful scan, it finds the item, it beeps again, and you can turn that off and on, but it's just to make sure people can not have to look up at the screen as much. They can keep going just based on the sound. So I just got a couple of interesting, items here. At any point anywhere in the product, you can drill into an item Okay, so here's all the information about this item. Purchasing tab, these are sales histories, the last purchase orders for them, the pricing model, margins. You can set sale prices and dates, whether it has bin locations, various options, whether it's active or not, who your default supplier is, costing, so on and so forth, what their reorder numbers are, your aliases, you can add and edit there, and then of course lots, if you have a lotted item. And if you want to edit any of these things, it's really simply just click the pencil, and now we can come in and edit things. So if I want to change my barcode type, or choose a different department or category, or change my taxing model, or my default supplier, my costs, etc., sale pricing, then I can just edit that right there, and then it's saved, and it's saved across the enterprise. You can also check other store quantities, so it's a global lookup. This is not a very exciting install because it's just one store in a warehouse. So we see the feedback against just the warehouse here. But if you had 30 stores here, you'd see all 30 of them lined up and what their quantity on hand, according to Central is. And we also added some other informational stuff up here, like just base quantity on hand, so people can see that. Sometimes it pops up like this, or where the bin locations are, so that it's just super quick and easy to find. But you can do that at any point. You can just click on an item like that, or you can use the lookup and drill into those items and globally manage them. But what I want to do with these two items, I want to create a PO, okay? So I'm just going to go to my menu, create a PO. I'll choose primary supplier. And then here we get, these items have been moved to a PO. And it shows quite a bit of information, all the things you'd expect: cost, part number, reorder number. It shows what the current price is. It shows the available quantity, and it shows what the sales are for the recent period. But more importantly, it shows the suggested buy right here. And what it's trying to tell me is that it thinks I ought to order 4 of these. And if I click into this little dot, dot, dot over here, this is going to tell me why it came to that conclusion, okay? And I've got one down here for wrap as well. So as an example, I have 2 time periods defined here. I have a 7-day time period, and I got a 30-day time period, okay? And these are configurable, so that could be 30 and 150, or whatever you want to look at, so that it helps with seasonality and things like that. And then what that does is it says, okay, for 2021, the last 30 days, you sold 11. For 2021, the next 30 days, you sold 9. And then in the last 30 days this year, you sold 88. So your trajectory is going up. So that's why it's coming up and telling you, it's suggesting that for 30-day stock, you buy 72 of these, okay? And then the same is true of this 7-day period. We went from 2 to 4, and now we're at 7. So this essentially doubled. So it's calculating out that it's going to double this quantity 7 to 14 is what the suggestion is. And we found as people start to trust this, that it saves tons of time because they don't have to go run reports. All the information is right available here, like what the sales are, costing, available quantities. They need more information or even KPIs. They just click in, and you can drill into the individual information, see here's all the dollars and profits on the things. And again, we've got store quantity checks and things like that. So it just becomes really fast. And then if you want to trust it, you can just say, okay, just buy my suggested 30. It changes all the quantities to match the suggested. And then you go ahead and you can release the PO. Now what has happened is it moved us into a PO receive mode. But let's go ahead and say, look, well, this is the PO we created, desktop PO-1. Let's go over to our purchase orders and see, do a refresh here. And then here you see that PO is inside of RMH. Okay, it's been released. It's got all the information that you would expect if you had done it within RMH. And what I can do here is say, I ordered 3, what if I get 5? it changes it to this color because I've got over. But if I say I get 3, it changes to green. Or if I claim that I'm receiving less, it goes to red. So it gives you some visual indication about if you're hitting your numbers or not. You can also just do a quick receive all or receive. You can also reject or view the entire list. There's a lot of options now in terms of being able to see all of the items. So if you had a 1,000 item PO, then you could actually view the entire list if you want to roll through those. I'm just going to do a quick receive all. I've got it set up to ask me whether I want to update my supplier cost. So it will do that automatically based on the receiving of this PO, or it'll leave it alone if I don't want that to happen. I'll go ahead and let that do that. And then here it's prompting if I want to print some labels, and I can say yes, I do. And I'll just say I don't want like 100 labels, so I'll say I want 5 labels of each. And then I can use my printer defaults, or I can have it ask me which of these labels I want to use. So let's turn the defaults off, because if I just click go now, it'll spit them out and it'll skip this next set of steps. But I want to show the options here. So now I can click here. Now here's the list of options in terms of label formats we've already got built in. And then this one is marked as a default, okay? And then we can select printers, because you can have multiple printers, and then you can print to any of them since they're all IP based. They're not tied to a device. So if you've got multiple places in a warehouse, or that you want to have a printer but you don't want to buy one for all machines, you can go ahead and do that and share those printers very easily. And then I'm just going to go ahead and tell it to print. And then hopefully you can hear that. That's my label printer here. It just spit out whatever number of tags, 10 tags right there. So that is like the PO process. Didn't have it asked to do the export on the PO, or the export on the PO. There's a way to email it and the file, and there's also a way to import a return file like I talked about. That can be massive, just massive in terms of time savings. And I know that a lot of these distributors, like the pet food guys and a lot of the sportswear folks, tool shops, those guys have the ability to sort of send a return file, and that can save you tons of time in checking in a PO to be received. Easy way to pick up an hour in a day. And then also, now that you received that PO, I'll go ahead and refresh here, and now you notice it's not in my open POs. If I go over to history and do a refresh, now you notice it shows in RMH that it's completed. So again, it provides a pretty complete audit trail to be able to follow what happened and report against it just like you do in RMH directly. We looked into drilling into items real quick. Let's see what we got here. So we do have this magnifying glass, which is designed to be like an easy price checker, or the same thing. I can just click there, choose an item, and then boom, here I go. I got a bunch of information on it. It's in bin Kerbany of pricing. And then this information gets filtered based on your permission level. So not everybody can see costs and things like that. So one of the other things that's cool about all this is that we did create the smart audit capabilities. So let me just start a list here. I'm gonna call it audit. Spelled that wrong, okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and click this mouse trap, and it's gonna tell me I just want one. That's the other thing. If I want to, I can turn on quick scan mode. Instead of having it prompt me for a quantity every time, I can just scan it in increments. So you notice now I've got 3, 4, grab another item, it'll just add 1, another item, add 1, okay. So this is just a generic list. But let's say we have a wild use case where we know one of our users is just random and they seem to want to type in 999. So that's one of the fictitious use cases I came up with. If somebody enters, that quantity, it changes the line item to yellow. Because hey, you better check that out. Okay. One of the other criteria we have here for this demo is if we enter over 50% more than they have on hand past 10, then it'll flag it. So let's look at this Venom item. It's got one on hand. So if I put in, I don't know, so if I put in as an example 20, oops, if I put in 20, it's going to flag that line item as well, okay? And that can be done for pretty much any logic that you can come up with. Like if you wanted it to flag it, if the system read it was below 0, or, you know, one of the other things that we protect from where it doesn't even allow you to flag it is, like, as an example, if I scan a UPC, you'll notice it says that's not real. You can't, there's no way we have, you know, 10 bajillion of these in stock. So it stops the user from making that mistake, which is remarkably enough a fairly common mistake. And then from this list, we can do anything we want. We can create an inventory count. That's going to take us into our over-under summary. So it shows what we've got here. We're over by a lot of stuff. Our percentages are crazy high, and over by a lot of dollars. If I want to see the whole list now, I have an option for that, or I can just cycle commit. But before we do that, let's go back and look at this item here. So we've got our classic mouse strip trap there, and I have how many? We got 5 of those in here on this count. One on hand at RMH. So I'll go ahead and review, and then cycle commit. And then now that's committed. And when I come up here and refresh, the quantity on hand has changed. Okay, so it's all real time. Okay, we do have some questions about scoping here, and I'm going to show some of that here. So if I want to scope out a count as an example, I can start a blank list, scope count, and then what I do is I say, instead of scanning into this blank list, I just say I want to go make it an inventory count. Now it gives us options for scoping. So if I want to pick a particular supplier, like go Hasbro, it found 958 items that we buy from Hasbro. Let's add another scope. Go department code range. Also go department. So this is another feature. So some people work on code ranges. Some of them work on departments directly. I'm going to go department. Go to TO9 games. Now we're down to 130 products. If I want to add another one, like if I want to go category, then I'll go board games. Now we're down to 21 items from this supplier. If I want to just go ahead and set the scope, then now I have a count for those 21 items. That's the same opportunity you have inside of POs as well. You can also print a bunch of labels for this right here. So we've made label printing available in all the modules, as well as we have like a scan to print. So if you were put a bunch of items on sale, yeah, let's just do that. Let's take a look at that opportunity. So we can go here, go into label printing, label. We can add a scope. So one of the things is recently changed. Most of y'all are familiar with this. So if you had just gone in and put a department of items on sale, as an example, or you'd done an import of a updated supplier file where it changed all the costs or the prices, and you wanted to reissue shelf tags for just those items, then you could go in and say, you know, recently changed, price, cost, sale price, description, and then past day, past week, past month. I don't know what we'll get here. Let's see what we get. Apparently we don't have any of those. Oh, I missed my selection. Okay, so the past month we had one product price change. Same is true for 1 week. So then that'll isolate it down to those, and it'll just print tags for the items that fall into that criteria. So we've got scoping in label printing, transfers, POs, inventory counts, everywhere now. All right, that is about what I had for the software demo here, folks. Just enough time to address some questions.
All right, so we do have one here. Can we make it so the cost option isn't there, i.e., can the cost information be suppressed for certain users?
It sure can. Yeah, it's based on whether they're assigned a manager role or not. So we feed off of the permissions for the most part inside of RMH. So if they, if they're not a manager, then yeah, then that suppresses all costs throughout the entire solution.
Right. I know Matt also did have a follow-up about being able to confine the users who can be able to change cost. And yes, that is also supported, Matt, where users who are typically cashiers will not have the ability to modify cost information at the store level. You could be able to have only elevated users perform those tasks.
And I see add expiry date. So we've got expiry date on the weighted lot items and on standard lot items. That's part of the solution today. And we've got special barcode tags that print that information as well. The POs have total weight. That's a good question. It doesn't do that now. We will, we'll take that into consideration. The VPN is available now. We're going to bundle it into the installer, and that'll be our next build, which is a week or two. But in the chat window, George actually sent a link. It's not a product we built. It's a simple product called Tailscale. It's a free little app, and you can download right off the Tailscale website. And it configures, and it's really easy. It's just a software client. It ties to your domain name, and then you put it on a machine, and then it gives it a proxy IP address, and then you can access that from anywhere.
What is the best way to scan items on the shelf so I can create a list and be able to print labels scanned currently in RMS? We create a PO, then print all the items on the PO. Is there a better way in this software?
Well, you can walk the shelves and create a list, and with that list, you can do anything you want. You can create a PO out of it. You can print labels from it. You can create a PO and print labels from it. If you've got a mobile label printer on your hip, you can scan them and print them, and boom, tag the shelf right there. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, I believe that's what Matt is asking. Yeah, so you can essentially just scan and convert it into whatever it is that you want, whether it's an account list, a PO list, a transfer order list. It could be multifunctional.
This is a good question for sorting the list. Today, no, we don't have that ability to sort based on column header, but we did just add that into our list of requirements as of this week. So that you can look for that to be coming soon.
All right, guys, if you have any questions or comments, reach out to us. We are definitely open to questions and input via our email or give us a call. You can try any of our software by going to our website downloads page. Thank you for your time today. Look forward to connecting with you in the future. Have a great day.
Thank you, everyone.